I've always felt that there are two cohorts of Nintendo fans out there in the world, running on two separate tracks with 2 points of origin. The first are people like me, who have been around for ages, since the earliest days of Nintendo's video games. We started on Donkey Kong and Mario Brothers in the arcades, or maybe played these games at home on the Atari 2600 or ColecoVision.
I did get the high score.
Then, after 1985, moved on to the Nintendo Entertainment System. If you're just a bit younger, then you started right here, with that classic Super Mario Duck Hunt game pack. Standard issue for Generation X. You grew up on 2D, but when the next generation rolled around, you went fully to the other side of the 32-bit CD-ROM, whether PlayStation, Saturn, or PC. Nintendo had its own next-gen machine, the N64, but it was delayed multiple times, for years. The few games that it had were sparsely released and were very expensive, being produced on clunky, outdated cartridges. The controller was obtuse, awkward, and confusing, unlike Sony's, which felt like an evolved Super NES controller in every way. With most third-party games available elsewhere, Nintendo's homegrown offerings were the only reason to own one. That brings me to the second set of Nintendo fans that are out there, the ones born into the world of the N64. The games were mostly inoffensive and indestructible, perfect for kids. A solid lineup of Nintendo-made games, the Ocarina of Time, Banjo-Kazooie, Mario Kart, Star Fox, and Donkey Kong, all of them in 3D, shaped the worldview of Generation Y. Those who walked away from Nintendo had reasons. It wasn't just poor marketing or more exciting alternatives. There really was something fundamentally flawed in the 3D Super Mario games, beginning with 64 and going all the way to the 21st century, at least in the eyes of those original fans. The man himself, Shigeru Miyamoto, creator of Mario and many of his games, envisioned the Super Mario Bros. Series as an athletic game. Many gloss over this and just assume that athletic means simply to run, like getting a workout. To move around so much that the screen is forced to follow you beyond the boundaries of the fixed screens of Donkey Kong and nearly every other early 1980s video game. If you treat the word athletic as an adjective, this might make sense, but as so often is the case, the truth gets lost in translation. When Miyamoto used the term athletic, he used it as a noun. An athletic, in Japanese, means an obstacle course. The term was popularized in the mid-1970s with a boom of field athletic parks, where participants could attempt military-style training courses called athletics. The trend continued into the 1980s, with video games, Super Mario Bros. Obviously leading the way, but also in TV shows like Takeshi's Castle. The levels of the 8-bit and 16-bit Super Mario games were meant to imitate real-life athletics, running through a course of dangerous traps to reach the goal as fast as possible. It's no wonder then that when you don't finish a stage in Super Mario games, Nintendo never says you've lost a life, just that this attempt was a miss. When Super Mario 64 came around, longtime Nintendo fans were left befuddled with what to do in the game. There were no super mushrooms, no fire flowers, no warp zones, no flagpoles. You just kind of walked around and looked at stuff. How do you finish each stage? Where is the goal? Why are there a bunch of rooms with paintings in them that do nothing? Why is there so much text to read? Why doesn't the D-pad work in this game? The big ba-bomb keeps throwing me off the cliff. Why can't I just jump on him? What was the point of all of this? Was this even Mario anymore? On the other side of the coin, other 3D titles, with a clean slate and no legacy behind them, broke away to be massive hits on the PlayStation. Jumping Flash, Klonoa, Spyro the Dragon, Crash Bandicoot, and dozens more. While Nights into Dreams and Burning Rangers on the Sega Saturn were also enjoyable and fun, in part because all of these games created new worlds with their own rules along the way. Millions turned their picture of Mario to the wall and never looked back. It's no wonder that when the series came back to its 2D origins with New Super Mario Bros., younger players, those born into the N64 and beyond, found it too difficult and too boring to play. They failed to understand the brilliant level design and enjoyable gameplay that came from trial and error, memorizing the right pattern to each stage and then just knocking it out. I mean, what's not to like? Those DS and Wii New Super Mario Bros. Games brought back a lot of Nintendo fans who were now much older. Both New Super Mario games sold over 30 million units each. Many of those millions were original 8-bit Mario fans who put down the money for just one more go, with Mario the right way. The way we remember! But a divide still clearly existed. The path that split in the mid-90s was now more visible than ever. Could there ever be a way to bridge the gap? To make a game that 2D and 3D Mario fans could both enjoy? Something to please everyone? Only one man could solve that puzzle. Would you expect anything less from him?
もう全然違うんだ、ステージの感じが。ちょっとフラワーなってみるか。うわ、すごい、フラワーもうめちゃくちゃ反射するんだ、これ。ほりゃ、いいね。いや、1から2からマリオのシリーズの全部がね、ある感じなんですよ、僕の中では。
スーパーマリオ 3D ランド。
The successes of the DS and Wii were unprecedented for Nintendo. In those days, fans joked lovingly that the machines printed money, but nothing lasts forever, and Nintendo was ready to move on to the next generation. In 2010, Nintendo unveiled the 3DS. Similar in design to the original DS, backwards compatible, but also more advanced, the 3DS allowed for the easiest transition for millions of DS owners to stay with Nintendo. The standout feature of this new machine was the stereoscopic display, which allowed games to play in true 3D. Objects appeared to jump right off the screen. It was unlike anything ever seen before, mainly because this 3D display actually worked well and required no glasses. In an Iwata Asks segment focused on the 25th anniversary of the first Super Mario Bros., Shigeru Miyamoto remarked that the next major Mario game was already underway for the new 3DS. He described the game as something that could please fans of 2D and 3D Mario games. The first public preview of the game came in March 2011 and showed off 4 stages of gameplay. The logo sparked hope for many that this new game would be a spiritual sequel to Super Mario Bros. 3. In June 2011, at the E3 Expo, more details were given, more game footage was shown, and to everyone's surprise, the game was playable to the general public for the first time. The full name of the game was made official: Super Mario 3D Land, truly giving players the best of both worlds. A 2D style game and 3D graphics that fit right alongside any other game of the day, with a nod to the classic Game Boy series in the title. Elements of the game and how it played came about during the development of the 3DS. Like many of Miyamoto's works, software and hardware went hand in hand. Under his leadership, the Super Mario Galaxy team resumed their roles in 2010 to create the next Mario game, and in true Nintendo fashion, one that was unique to the latest hardware. The team took their most recent game, Galaxy 2, and shrunk it down for a smaller screen. From this, several flaws were exposed. Mario was too small for the DS-sized screen, which made movement difficult. There were also issues with the camera system, which floated around too much and could not be controlled as it was on the Wii. It was quickly realized that a portable Super Mario Galaxy was unplayable. A fixed camera system was put in place. The stages were placed at an angle. Objects were designed isometrically, meaning all on-screen elements were equal in size from all sides. Perspective, depth, and realism were cast aside for simplicity. On-screen information that usually rests in the upper part of the screen was moved to the lower second screen on the 3DS. Only the timer remained on top, as it was vital to gameplay. Using the touchscreen can drop the reserve item with ease. The touchscreen also has 2 buttons that will swing the camera back and forth, similar in function to the C button in Super Mario 64. Mario could move around freely in a 3-dimensional space, though he was always moving forward. The stereoscopic screen allowed for visuals that made a 3D game truly feel 3D. Cheep Cheeps jumping over bridges, layers of blocks that have items to hide, and coins off in the distance create an experience that simply cannot be done on a traditional 2D screen. It all worked because the 3D space Mario can move in is constrained to a linear path that 2D action demands. As an aside, Super Mario Bros. 3 once had this isometric point of view on the drawing board. The idea was abandoned after it was deemed too difficult to design and to play. The floor of the title screen and some other areas are a vestige of this concept. Perhaps the angled design that was once considered for the 8-bit Super Mario 3 guided development to include more of that classic style into 3D Land. One of the most beloved elements of Mario's past was revived: the Super Leaf and Tanuki Suit. Usually with each new game, added features, like flight, were retained in later games, but were given a different power-up and costume design for Mario, such as the cape from Mario World and the Bee-suit from Galaxy. As a Tanuki, Mario can fly, glide, and swing his tail for an attack. The ability to turn into an invincible statue was split from the Super Leaf in 3D Land into its own item, the gray statue leaf, working the same way as it did in Mario 3. A third leaf was also included, which turned Mario into a white Tanuki, giving him full invincibility throughout one stage. This leaf appears only after failing to complete a stage 5 times in a row, to give the player a helping hand. There was a wholly new way for Mario to fly as well, the Propeller Box. This item lets Mario fly to amazing new heights, then slowly descend, easily getting Mario out of a jam or just to get a bird's eye view of each stage. Another returning item was the P-Wing. In Mario 3, this allowed Mario to fly for an unlimited amount of time in one stage, while in 3D Land, it zips you right to the end. Other returning power-ups, such as the Super Mushroom and Fire Flower, were expected to be present. These power-ups were given placements in areas where they would best be used, such as finding a Fire Flower in an area where things like torches needed to be lit. Though it was always up to the player to decide best how to use what is discovered. While these are exciting enough, an all-new power-up was included to take the game to a higher level: the Boomerang Flower. This gives Mario an attack similar to the Hammer Brothers suit from Mario 3. The flower lets Mario toss out a boomerang for a long-range attack, while looking rather similar to the Boomerang Brothers found throughout the game. Speaking of enemies, all the mainstays of the series are back: Koopa Troopas, Goombas, Cheep Cheeps, Spinies, Bloopers, Lakitu, and all the rest. With so many Super Leaves just laying around, you'll find that this time around, some of the enemies will sport the famous tail. New enemies include Bittybuds, multicolored ladybug-like creatures, and the inky piranha plant, an enemy that won't fry you, but will block out the screen. To keep the connections between 2D and 3D Mario games strong, several elements that were found in or are reminiscent of Mario 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy were added to 3D Land. Star medals were created to give players a reward for daring to explore off the recommended path. There are 3 medals in each stage. They are similar to the star coins in New Super Mario Bros., but much like the collectible stars in other games, can be used to unlock levels later in the game. 290 are needed to unlock every area. Red coins make an appearance, working similarly to past games. In 3D Land, getting all 5 before time runs out results in a bonus item as your reward. Cannons also return to help transport Mario to a new area in the middle of a stage. Along with classic green pipes and the new Warp Box, they also serve as a way to change the camera angle when necessary, making these a clever way to get around the fixed point of view. The Mystery Box transports Mario to a bonus area, where if he can complete a timed challenge, items, 1-ups, and star medals are his rewards. In addition to all of that, Luigi is playable in Super Mario 3D Land. After he's rescued in-game, you have the option to play any stage with the green guy. Much like other Mario games of the past, Luigi has higher jumping abilities, albeit with slippy controls. When Luigi gets the Super Leaf, he turns into a fox. There were also features that were built into the 3DS hardware, something Nintendo and Miyamoto are known for. Naturally, the stereoscopic screen adds a level of depth to gameplay, both figuratively and literally. There's also the built-in gyroscope that allows for a wider view when using binoculars. Look out for toads along the way, as they'll drop star medals and bonuses. The gyro controls also aim the cannons, so make sure you use them well to launch Mario accurately. 3D Land also takes advantage of the Street Pass system, where players can exchange in-game items with one another. After completing the game, your best times for each stage can also be shared with others. As for the quest that Mario embarks upon, it all begins one day when a powerful storm blows away all of the super leaves on Princess Peach's tail tree, located just outside the castle. It was a plan hatched by Bowser, King of the Koopa, to collect all the leaves to give his minions tail power, with which he could easily kidnap Princess Peach and conquer the Mushroom Kingdom. It's up to Mario to get those leaves out of the hands of Bowser's army, restore the tail tree, kick Bowser to the curb, and once again, save the princess. Every element in Super Mario 3D Land was a perfect balance of the classic and modern Mario that was familiar to 2D and 3D fans, while still offering a new adventure in a style that was never seen before, and fully worth the price of a 3DS just to try it out. After a year of development that was known to the public, the game was ready to roll. Super Mario 3D Land first went on sale in Japan on November 3rd, 2011. By the end of the month, the game was available worldwide. Reviews were universally positive, with every major news website and magazine issuing top scores. A few were close to perfect, others less. But the overall average, 12 plus years later, stands at 90%. 3D Land set several new sales records, including the first 3DS game to reach 5 million units in sales. After the 3DS rode off into the sunset, total sales of Super Mario 3D Land stood at just a hair under 13 million units, making it the 7th best-selling 3DS game of all time. Out of all 76 million or so 3DS owners out there in the world, 17% of them had Super Mario 3D Land. After that success, most of us at home knew, with that classic naming scheme, a Super Mario 3D World couldn't be far behind.
Welcome to a new way to play Mario, where stunning 3D worlds await, and you can do the impossible. You can play inside Mario's world in 3D. Now on Nintendo 3DS, Super Mario 3D Land, rated E for everyone.
Much like how Nintendo replaced the DS with the 3DS in 2011, the Wii was shown the exit to make way for the Wii U, debuting around the world in the fall of 2012. The Wii U was backwards compatible with the original Wii and wasn't a giant leap forward, but did offer vital and interesting features, such as high-vision graphics and the gamepad interactive controller. This allowed for a second screen experience for TV games, creating something akin to the DS and 3DS at home on the big screen. The standout game in 2012 was New Super Mario Bros. U, a companion game to New Super Mario Bros. 2 on the 3DS, released that summer. While New U was enjoyable as ever, most looked over to the horizon to Mario's next big outing. In January 2013, only 2 months after the debut of the Wii U, Nintendo let it be known to the world that the next 3D Mario game was already in the works. Miyamoto would lead as usual, and the core team behind Galaxy and 3D Land were involved. No other details were given, as Nintendo spent most of its energy in the first half of 2013 promoting the Year of Luigi, as well as other games that were closer to release. At E3 in June 2013, Nintendo dropped the veil and unleashed a flood of news. The next Mario game would be a sequel to 3D Land, Super Mario 3D World. As well, the game was nearly finished, scheduled for a November release. On the surface, things looked very similar to 3D Land. Super Mario 3D World features the same isometric view with a semi-fixed camera system, where Mario can freely roam in all directions, but is continually moving forward on a linear track towards the goal. Many changes and enhancements were added to the game to give something completely new while retaining the familiar style of 3D Land. The biggest change is the multiplayer action in the game. Taking a page from new Super Mario Bros. Wii and U, 3D World allows up to 4 simultaneous players. Unlike most Mario games of the past, Princess Peach is playable rather than in need of rescue, along with Toad, Luigi, and of course Mario leading the way. The team of 4 harks back to Super Mario USA, the Western Super Mario 2, and each character's abilities are carried over from that classic game. Mario is the well-rounded character. His running and jumping are balanced, making him the easiest character to control. Luigi has the highest jumps, which is great for reaching certain items that might be out of reach for Mario. Toad is the fastest character and is vital in some stages where the timer is set to only 100 seconds. He has the shortest jumps in exchange for his speed. Peach is the slowest runner of them all, but can float while jumping, allowing her to pass over many dangers safely in the air. With all 4 characters in one stage at the same time, the action can get very intense and very fun. Each player can use different abilities to help each other in every stage. During multiplayer, everyone shares a pool of lives, unlike new Super Mario Bros. Wii and U, where lives are counted individually. Each player can enter a safety bubble when the going gets too hard, and if you can't keep up with the on-screen action, a bubble automatically forms and moves you along. While you may have a favorite character and prefer to stick with him or her, the game encourages you to try out each one, not only by crafting levels that cater to the specialties of each character, but with switches marked only for Mario, Luigi, Toad, or Peach. These offer power-ups and bonus items when activated. As well, each stage keeps track of who reached the goal, and the only way to get a perfect game is to clear everything with each character. While the gameplay is cooperative, there is a competitive element, as everyone's scores are tallied up at the end of each stage. The one with the highest score gets to wear a crown for the next stage. The crown is worth 5,000 points if you can make it to the goal while still wearing it. It is possible to knock the crown off and someone else can pick it up, or lose it entirely. Super Mario 3D World does its best to be more than just a bigger, prettier version of 3D Land, with a new power-up sharing the stage, the Cat Bell and Cat Suit. With these, Mario and others can attack with cat claws that knock out an enemy in a similar manner to the tail swing. As a cat, Mario can run much faster, and while cats can't fly, they can dive and attack from high platforms. Much like the Super Leaf from 3D Land, there is a bell variant in 3D World, the Lucky Cat Bell. With this power-up, Mario can turn into a Maneki Neko when doing a ground pound. As a statue, Mario is immobile, but invincible. Also, for as long as the statue falls through the air, Mario picks up coins along the way. Another new power-up made its way into 3D World, the Double Cherry. With this item, Mario can clone himself. The main function of the cherry is to access certain areas marked with numbers that require that many characters to activate the space. In a multiplayer game, most of these can be done with ease, but in single player, it requires the cherry. It's also easier to knock out enemies and get through difficult spots. The clone Mario will survive to the end of the stage unless he gets hit, so you've got one extra chance with each clone. All of the mainstay items such as Fire Flowers and Superstars make a return, along with the Super Mushroom, which, if you remember, will grow Mario into a gigantic size, letting him tear through areas of the game easily and quickly. The Wii U gamepad allows touch controls to affect what's on the main screen. One touch can stun enemies, open secret areas, and create platforms to help Mario and company along. Some areas require the use of the gamepad microphone by blowing into it. Nintendo included some online functionality to add friendly and competitive elements to 3D World. Players can upload their best times as Ghost Miis and post comments about the game on Miiverse. In addition to writing whatever you want on Miiverse, players could use stamps that feature images from the game. Stamps are found in each stage and were a fun way to tell your friends that you finished the stage, maybe one that others couldn't. Green stars have replaced star medals, but have the same basic function, to unlock later stages and mark 100% completion of the game. Most stages have the standard 3 stars per stage. Boss fight stages give you 1 star, while mystery box stages offer more, in some cases up to 10 or even 20 stars. Super Mario 3D World also presents a new kind of stage, Captain Toad's Adventure. These stages offer the chance to earn 5 stars by navigating your way through a 3D maze with only 1 correct path. You must tilt and rotate the camera angle to see your way around, presenting an interesting challenge. Oh, and did I mention Toad can't jump? Yeah, well, he can't. With enough green stars, later stages found beyond the main game can be accessed, including Star World, presented in a style similar to Super Mario Galaxy. There, an unlockable character awaits, Princess Rosetta, alternatively known as Rosalina. Her running and jumping abilities are identical to Mario, but she can always perform a spin attack, even without a power-up. And yes, if you want to get 100% completion, you have to replay every stage that came before unlocking Rosetta, all over again. There is one more hidden secret in most stages: Luigi icons. As 2013 was the year of Luigi, which celebrated 30 years of the green guy, these were added to let 3D World, a game with Mario in the title, a chance to join in on the fun. You can find 8-bit Luigi icons in the backgrounds of some stages. These icons don't do anything and often appear at random times. Along with that, a separate mini-game was added, Luigi Brothers. The game is unlocked by completing the main story, or if you happen to already have new Super Luigi U save data on your Wii U, the game is opened right from the start. Luigi Brothers isn't much more than Mario Brothers with 2 playable Luigis, but it is a nice touch and just as fun as the original. To differentiate the 2 Luigis, Player 1 is blue and green, Player 2 is green and white. As for the music, Nintendo used live musicians to create the in-game BGM, dubbed the Super Mario 3D World Big Band. These jazzy, up-tempo numbers were very different than the atmospheric music of Galaxy and the synthesized music of older Mario games. The soundtrack was fun and added a layer of realism to the game that is hard to put into words. It just fits perfectly, despite being the opposite of what video game music usually is. As for the story of Super Mario 3D World, it all began one day when Bowser, King of the Koopa, yet again dreams up new plans of conquest, this time in the Sprixie Kingdom. He kidnaps the 7 Sprixie princesses that peacefully rule over the land. Thankfully, along the way, a giant pipe that holds hundreds of power-ups exploded, spreading them all over the kingdom. It's up to Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Peach to spring the Sprixies ASAP. As release day drew near, it became clear that this was one of Nintendo's largest and most detailed outings ever made. Most of it was developed in secret in 2012 and 2013, without much news until the game was nearly finished. On November 21st, 2013, Super Mario 3D World was released for the Wii U, first in Japan, with the game available worldwide by the end of November. When the reviews came in, they were among the highest ever for a game on the Wii U. Some websites and magazines issued a perfect score, while the rest were very close to that. For Club Nintendo members in Japan, 3D World came with a special bonus. The first round of buyers received a 2-disc CD soundtrack by the Super Mario 3D World Big Band, just one of many collections the club gave loyal fans over the years. The Wii U was hardly a success, selling only 13.5 million units worldwide in 4 years, a fraction of what the Wii, DS, and 3DS sold. Despite that, Super Mario 3D World racked up lifetime sales of 5,890,000 units, becoming the second best-selling Wii U game of all time, with 43% of Wii U owners having the game. This share beats out every TV game Mario since Super Mario World in 1990. That's a success story worth celebrating.
Wii U 今度のマリオはピーチでも遊べる。もうピーチに変えよう。ピーチお願いします。ジャンプ。ずーっと飛んでられるもんピーチ。よいしょ。お、ピーチ姫も猫になった。あ、よいしょ。うお、高い。 ルイージやるね。おー、これルイージだと楽。
Wii U スーパーマリオ 3D ワールド。
かわいい。キノピオ早っ。
Super Mario 3D Land and 3D World left a strong impression on Nintendo fans way back when, over 10 years ago. Even today, that influence still remains. The Captain Toad stages of 3D World became a separate Wii U game in 2014 with Captain Toad's Treasure Tracker. Based on the level design seen in 3D World, this all-new game features 79 levels of 3D maze exploration and puzzle solving. The story of the game involves Toad and Toadette rescuing stolen Power Stars from Wingo, a giant bird who likes to collect shiny objects. In the final stages, it is revealed that the ending of Captain Toad leads into the opening of 3D World, making the two games chronologically connected. In 2018, Treasure Tracker was released for the 3DS and Switch, adding 4 new levels based on Super Mario Odyssey. When the Wii U gave way to the Switch in 2017, many older games started to be remastered and re-released for the Switch. It's no secret that Nintendo likes to recycle old ideas to ensure every fan has multiple opportunities to spend hard-earned money buying old games over and over again. Beginning with Breath of the Wild on day one and Mario Kart 8 later that year, over 30 games from the Wii U era and earlier have found their way to the Switch, including the aforementioned Treasure Tracker. As Pikmin, Kirby, Pokemon, and other past Mario games got the reissue treatment, many hoped that 3D World would get a second life. It took nearly 4 years, almost the entire lifespan of the Wii U itself, for that wish to be granted. On February 12, 2021, Super Mario 3D World was re-released for the Nintendo Switch worldwide. Much like other re-releases, 3D World was changed slightly to work better on new hardware. Amiibo functionality is now built in. The characters run faster, throw things farther, and have tighter controls. Jumping high distances and off walls have also been made easier. If Mario discovers a green star or stamp, but then fails to complete a course, he keeps it and doesn't have to discover it all over again. Captain Toad's stages now accommodate 4 players, while Captain Toad can ward off Boos and Pikas with his headlight. As the Wii U and Switch have different hardware features, some things had to be altered or removed entirely. Propeller platforms that require blowing into the mic are now gone. Miiverse no longer exists. Now stamps can be applied to in-game snapshots for a nice decoration. I suppose you can put an SD card into your computer and email them out. So there is that way. Online multiplayer still exists, though now done through the Nintendo Switch Online service, while 2 people can enjoy local multiplayer with only 1 game card. Touch controls, which are vital in some stages, are now done by pressing R to make a pointer appear and activate things on screen. Luigi Brothers can no longer be unlocked with new Super Luigi U save data and can only be accessed by completing the main game. There are still more changes in graphical presentation, such as shadowing, visibility, water depth, and sound cues. You might not even notice them. While these changes make the game run properly on the Switch and improve the experience that was on the Wii U, the real added value comes from the bonus game, Fury World, also known as Bowser's Fury. One day, Mario follows a trail of mysterious black goo that teleports him to Lake Lapcat, where Bowser has been transformed thanks to said black goo and is on a rampage. It's all Bowser Jr.'s fault, who got too much of the black stuff all over his dad, causing him to transform. The two team up to bring Bowser back to normal and restore order to Lake Lapcat. The only way to do so is by collecting cat shines, which are found all over the area. When enough are collected, the Giga Bell is activated, which can turn Mario into a Giga Cat, big enough to fight Bowser one-on-one. While Super Mario 3D World was a critical and commercial success, Nintendo never experimented further with a Mario game that combined 2D and 3D styles. The next big game came in 2015, Super Mario Maker. The fun in Mario Maker lies in user-crafted stages that are shared with your friends. When Super Mario Maker 2 hit the Switch in 2019, a Super Mario 3D World theme was added to the lineup, featuring graphics, music, and power-ups from 3D World. Only Mario, Luigi, and Toad are playable. The princesses had to sit this one out. Both Mario Makers were only playable in 2D, making the inclusion of 3D World kind of strange, though it does work well and gives a very modern feel to classic gameplay. In 2017, the next 3D Mario game came down the line, Super Mario Odyssey. Returning back to the styles of Sunshine and 64, Odyssey features open 3D worlds, with Mario completing hundreds of missions to collect power moons that give the Odyssey ship enough power to reach the moon. Only then can Mario save Princess Peach from her arranged marriage to Bowser. The concept of hidden Luigis from 3D World is found in Odyssey, as 8-bit versions of Cat Mario and Cat Peach can be found in each kingdom, if you know where to look. A few enemies such as Typhus and Parabones make it into the game, and the music from Rainbow Road can be unlocked with the Mario Amiibo. Though this was a proper 3D Mario game, Odyssey included many 2D elements. Most often when Mario enters a pipe, he will come out in 2D on the other side. The new Donk City Celebration stage is also unforgettable. This is as close to the mixing of 2D and 3D gameplay Nintendo has ever gotten to since 2013. In Super Mario Bros. Wonder, released in 2023, things once again went back to traditional 2D. Maybe it will become something in its own right. The future is hard to predict. However, it's very safe to say that the next Mario adventure won't arrive until 2027 or 28 at the earliest. Major surprises notwithstanding. As history has taught us, the 4 to 6 year spaces between these games are often filled with smaller games and re-releases to tide everyone over. Which begs the question, will Super Mario 3D Land receive a remaster in the future? Let's weigh out the situation. Here are a few points that favor such an idea. In the Switch era, Nintendo has been on a hot streak when it comes to bringing back many games of the past. DS and 3DS games have been remastered, Luigi's Mansion 2 being a recent example, but there are many others. 3D World has already been brought over to the Switch, meaning that the framework to create a Switch 3D Land already exists. It would be quite easy to rebuild the stages from the 3D World code, unless as a layman, I somehow don't see some major technical complication that all basic programmers see, making this a hard no. As we all know, Mario is the face of the company, and Nintendo has made sure that year after year, for 40 years, there is always something new, or new, from Mario on the store shelves. With Wonder front and center, it just means that now isn't the time. As for what may keep 3D Land locked away in the vault, 3D Land is naturally a smaller game than 3D World. That hasn't stopped older DS, 3DS, or even Game Boy games from a re-release. But it would provide a shorter, scaled-down experience compared to 3D World. And for those who got on board after 2021, it might feel like a step down. Complaints and dissatisfaction from the audience would give the home office some pause. The naming scheme is also a strike against re-release. Land and World side by side can be confusing for the uninformed. Are these the same game? What makes them different? Sure, back in the good old days, this all made sense. The Super NES was powerful, and the Game Boy was not. So you had Super Mario World, like an entire planet on the TV, and then Super Mario Land, like one nation out of many, when you're on the go. But with the Switch, none of that really matters or makes sense anymore. I just can't imagine being a kid in the 2020s, getting inundated with games that are new but are actually quite old, while trying to sort out this very confusing timeline. Then there's the ever-expanding Nintendo Switch Online game service. A few years in, the Game Boy Advance and N64 were added to the lineup, for an extra fee, don't forget. Who's to say that the DS and 3DS won't be next? But if that is the plan, then Super Mario 3D Land will be playable on the Switch, but in its original format, stripped of many features and left without any enhancements, like all the others on the service. A fate undeserving of what was once a marquee title. The answer, simply, is that nobody knows until it happens. Just keep hanging in there and hold out hope that maybe someday 3D Land on the Switch becomes reality. And if it doesn't, just get on the internet and complain until it does. Hey, it worked for Mother 3, right?
スーパーマリオ 3D ワールドプラスフューリーワールド。
We're almost at the end. I really hope you've enjoyed this fun look back at Super Mario 3D Land and 3D World. Two games from a time that wasn't really that long ago, but is now quickly becoming a bygone era. I'm gonna say something that might be shocking, but hear me out to the end. I have never had nostalgia for 8-bit and 16-bit video games. Why? Because I never stopped playing them. When that fork in the road came up around 1995, when I got off the Nintendo train, my NES stayed plugged in. On the PlayStation, I stuck with all those great third-party series I had from before. Mega Man, Castlevania, Final Fantasy, and a few others, while also embracing the new 3D games out there. Jumping Flash was especially great. Every classic collection, such as Activision Anthology, also made their way home. All the while, used NES games that cost only $1 in most cases continued to take up my time, until I learned about emulation anyway. However, as life went on, as time and money became a lot more free, I went back to Nintendo. I loved the Wii U and 3DS. They were great. It was perfect timing for everyone in their 30s to go back and see what the Big N was up to. And the offerings were pretty good, but it was never this flashback to the 80s. It was this new, weird 2010s version of Nintendo that probably seemed like the same old to most, but was pretty captivating for someone jumping back in. I played that 3DS on my daily commute for several years. When I started GTV, the only way to make up for lost time on creating videos was to stop playing games and get to work on the train instead. So, the 3DS went into the closet at the end of 2015. The Wii U also got packed up. If you remember the episode I made on March 3rd, 2017, the day the Switch came out, I gave it a proper send-off. The Wii U was dead, and I had played through every game that I owned. That alone wouldn't make me pack it away, but the elegant space-saving design of the Switch, combined with nearly every popular Wii U game getting a reissue, made it a no-brainer to free up the space. I loved every Wii U game, but that thing was a pain to set up and use. 2 huge power bricks and a stand for the gamepad. How inelegant. My Wii U and 3DS went into the closet and stayed there for about 6 or 7 years, when very recently I dug them out, charged them up, and gave them another go. That is when the nostalgia hit. All that fun I had 10 plus years ago came flooding back. It was like I was young again, despite being old. Funny how that works. And not only did all that fun come back, but also the memories of that time, when we brought our picture of Mario back from the wall to embrace this renaissance, which according to most was Nintendo's 21st century nadir. Was it though? Playing Super Mario 3D World in my own personal bubble, away from the rest of the world, it never felt like it. Things are always a little more fun when what you love isn't so popular anyways. When you look back at all the Mario games, how can you definitively say which one is the best? Review scores, sales, how many groundbreaking features the game had, how many of those elements live on today? The truth is, none of these can answer that question. It's all too many data points, from too many places in time, by too many people. The answer simply rests in each of us. You know what you like and what you don't like, and you don't need anyone to tell you. For me, Super Mario 3D World is the greatest Mario game of all time, and the best Wii U and Switch game as well. It was exactly what I wanted, but never knew until I played it. Then to relive it all again, now, as the game turns 10, it's clear. You cannot do any better than this game. And so far, nobody has. I'm sure a lot of us thought that after Super Mario Galaxy, the next game would be called Super Mario Universe. That never happened, but if Nintendo ever goes back to the 3D World style, I know the perfect name. Are you ready? Super Mario Dimension.